Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
Today we'll be looking into this whole idea of facilitation,
Okay.
helping groups work together, all that. We've got some interesting sources for this one
Okay.
from Germany,
Oh, cool.
a YouTube video transcript and a company website.
Ah,
And they're all about how to actually, make facilitation work.
nice.
Now, these
Okay.
sources are actually in German,
Oh, wow.
but don't worry, we'll be talking about it all in English.
Okay.
So the YouTube video starts out talking about how important it is to understand everyone's different perspective,
Yeah.
their world views.
Yeah.
They have this great word in German, Weltsicht.
Weltsicht.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And also they talk about this idea of Grundannahmen,
Grundannahmen.
which are basically your assumptions.
Right.
Like the underlying beliefs that kind of shape how you see things.
Yeah, the assumptions that we
Yeah.
all carry around with us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating how different cultures have specific words for these things.
Yeah.
And the video actually goes on to talk about Deutsche Telekom,
Oh, wow.
this huge company,
Yeah.
and how they're using facilitation techniques
Interesting.
to help their teams work together better. And they even develop their own cards
Real.
to help people make their Grundannahmen more transparent.
Huh.
So everyone can kind of see where you're coming from.
And do you think that actually works?
Well, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes just
Yeah.
bringing those assumptions out into the open
Yeah.
can be enough to get people talking more productively,
Yeah, I can see that. Like, imagine you're in a meeting and everyone's talking past each other.
Oh, yeah.
But if you can figure out what are the assumptions
Yeah.
that are kind of behind the conflict,
Yeah.
then you can start to sort of bridge the gap.
Totally. Yeah. It's you got to get on the same page,
Right, yeah.
So now we move over to this company's website.
Okay.
It's called Communication Slotsen.
Communication slots in. That's,
What does that even mean?
it means communication pilots.
Communication pilots. Wow.
Yeah, and they offer all these tools and training for, facilitators.
Oh, I like that. Communication pilots. That really kind of gets to the heart of it, right?
Yeah, totally.
You're guiding people through this complicated conversation.
Yeah, helping them, navigate to some kind of shared understanding.
Yeah.
So they've got these two sets of cards that sound really interesting.
Okay.
One is called Facilitative Thinking Cards,
Facilitative thinking. Okay.
and the other is Lassenkarten, which just means pilot cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and actually they even have a digital version of the Facilitative Thinking cards specifically for schools,
Oh, wow.
which I thought was really interesting.
So they see it as valuable, not just for businesses, but for young people as well.
Yeah.
Teaching kids how to communicate effectively.
Yeah, could be really impactful.
Totally. I'm curious though, how do these cards work?
Yeah, I mean, how does that even...
Practically, right? Do they just give you prompts for
Yeah.
discussion, or is there a more structured approach?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I imagine they probably provide some kind of framework
Okay.
for thinking about different aspects of a problem
Right.
or a decision. Maybe some cards focus on identifying the stakeholders,
Yeah.
others on brainstorming solutions,
Okay.
maybe weighing pros and cons,
Yeah, that makes sense.
something like that.
And they actually mentioned that both sets come in physical and digital formats.
Oh, wow.
So it seems like they're trying to make them accessible to everyone,
Yeah,
no matter how they like to work.
it's smart, right?
Yeah.
Because the world's becoming more digital.
Yeah.
So having those tools online opens up all these possibilities
For sure.
for remote teams and virtual workshops and things like that.
Okay, so speaking of facilitative thinking, the cards seem to really emphasize this idea of uncovering those Grundannahmen we were talking about.
Underlying assumptions.
Yeah, and they even have a little audio clip on the website
Okay.
explaining why this is so important.
And what does the audio clip say?
Well, it explains that our Grundannahmen, those assumptions, are often unconscious beliefs
Right.
shaped by our experiences, what we've learned from other people,
Yeah.
and that these hidden beliefs can have a huge impact
Oh, yeah.
on how we communicate and just how we see the world.
It's like that saying, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are.
Right.
It's like our assumptions are filters
Yeah.
that kind of shape our perception.
And the facilitative thinking cards are actually pretty affordable.
Oh.
They're only €30 a set.
Oh.
So it seems like they're trying to make it pretty accessible to folks.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's in line with their mission of
Yeah.
making these tools and techniques available to a wider audience.
Oh. Now, the Latzenkarten, or the pilot cards,
Yeah.
come with this textile center that you use in circle-based discussions. And get this, They even use imagery
Okay.
related to a medicine wheel.
Wow, that's interesting.
I know.
Yeah, using circles in facilitation is pretty
Yeah.
common. There's something about that shape, the circle, that kind of promotes equality,
Yeah.
encourages everyone to participate. And then the medicine wheel, with that focus on balance,
Right.
ties in really nicely with the principles of facilitation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the pilot cards with the center are only about 57 euros,
Oh, not bad.
which isn't bad considering it's a physical set,
Right.
you know?
It's kind of cool that they're bringing those like ancient symbols
I know.
and traditions
Yeah.
into like a modern context.
It's really cool. Okay, so before we move on to the digital tools,
Yeah.
I just got to say, I'm really starting to appreciate all these German terms.
Me too.
It's fun.
It adds like a little flair to this whole thing.
Totally.
It's a good reminder that these concepts are being explored all over the world.
Yeah, for sure. So are you ready to jump into the world of digital artifacts?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's see how they've adapted these tools for the online world.
Awesome. So they've created these like digital versions
Okay.
of classic workshop tools,
Yeah.
like flipcharts and whiteboards,
Okay.
specifically for using in like online meetings and webinars and things like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost essential these days, right?
Yeah, totally.
So many teams are remote or have members all over the place.
Yeah.
Having those familiar tools
Right.
in a digital format just makes it so much easier
Yeah,
to collaborate
for sure.
no matter where you are.
And to make it happen, they've partnered with this company called
Newland.
who specialize in visual communication tools.
Okay.
So it sounds like a pretty perfect match.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's like they've combined their expertise right.
Right.
Communication Slotin knows facilitation.
Yeah.
Newland knows visual communication.
Yeah.
So it's a great example of how collaboration can lead to innovation.
Totally. One digital artifact that caught my eye is the open space flipchart.
Okay.
Have you ever been to like an open space workshop?
I have actually. Yeah.
What's that like?
Open space is a really interesting approach.
Okay.
Basically, the participants decide what topics they want to talk about.
Oh, wow. So there's not really an
You're
agenda.
not a set agenda.
Wow.
It's much more organic
Okay.
and engaging.
So this open space flipchart, I imagine, is like a digital canvas
Yeah, I think so.
where you can like capture your ideas and
Exactly.
the outcomes of discussion.
It gives you that structure
Okay.
for capturing everything.
That's cool. And they've also got digital versions of the Circle Way artifacts.
Okay.
Like talking sticks and centerpieces.
Wow.
Which I thought was really interesting.
It's a really nice touch.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that they understand
Yeah.
that it's not just about the tools, right?
Yeah. It's about creating the right environment for dialogue.
Exactly. You know, it's interesting because remember how that YouTube video
Yeah.
really focused on using facilitation within organizations?
Yeah.
But the Communications Lots and website talks about like
Okay.
applying these principles in a lot of different areas,
Like what?
like team development, coaching, even conflict mediation.
Interesting.
It's like their vision is to make facilitation like a core skill
Right.
for anyone who wants to just work better with others.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a light bulb moment for me. like
Yeah.
realizing facilitation isn't just about meetings.
Right.
It's like a way of approaching any situation.
It's like a mindset shift
Yeah.
from like me versus you to
Yeah.
we.
Totally.
Yeah.
And speaking of values,
Yeah.
Communications Lotzen is very transparent about theirs.
Okay.
They actually list all the organizations that they support,
That's cool.
all of which are focused on climate change.
It's nice to see a company walking the talk
Yeah.
when it comes to sustainability. Yeah, and it's good for potential customers to know
Right.
what they stand for.
Exactly.
Right. They also outline these 6 key principles
Okay.
that guide their work, like things like fostering collective intelligence
Right.
and creating islands of common sense.
Islands of common sense. I love
I
that.
know, right? And they even have a section called Die Lotsen,
Die Lotzen.
which means the pilots,
Oh,
where you can like get to know the team behind it all,
nice.
which is a nice personal touch.
It's always nice to see the faces behind the work.
Speaking of pilots,
Yeah.
they have this amazing visual on their website.
Oh.
It's like this network of dots
Good.
representing like individuals and teams.
Okay.
And they're all connected by these lines that symbolize communication.
So they see themselves as helping to create those connections.
Exactly. And in the center of it all,
Yeah.
there's a compass
Oh, wow.
representing the guidance that they provide as communication pilots.
It's a powerful image.
Right. What do you think about that?
It's a really beautiful way to represent their mission.
Yeah.
Helping people navigate the complexity of communication
Right.
and find their way through it.
Now, before we wrap up, there's one last thing I wanted to share.
Okay.
It's from their Kleingedrucktes section.
Kleingedrucktes, what is that?
It literally means small printed.
Okay.
And it's basically like their fine print section.
Okay.
Where they have things like their legal notice, privacy policy,
Yeah.
terms and conditions, all that stuff.
So even in the fine print, they're being transparent.
Exactly.
Making sure everything is clear,
Yeah,
accessible.
totally.
That's consistent with their whole approach, isn't it?
I think you're right.
Striving for clarity and understanding.
It seems like they've really thought through every aspect of,
Yeah.
how to make facilitation accessible and effective.
So what stands out to you the most from all of this?
Honestly, I'm really impressed by their holistic approach.
Mhm.
They're not just offering tools, right? They're like promoting a philosophy, a way of being in the world that values communication and collaboration.
A great point.
And collective intelligence.
It seems like they get it right.
Yeah.
Facilitation is more than just techniques.
Right.
It's a mindset,
Yeah.
a way of approaching challenges.
Yeah. And it all started with that YouTube video about Weltsicht and Grundannamen.
It's amazing how one simple idea can lead to such a rich exploration.
Right. It's like we've gone on a journey from
Yeah.
those initial concepts
Yeah.
to the practical tools and the broader philosophy that underpins it all.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
What does all this mean for the listener?
Yeah.
For you?
For me,
For all of us?
I think for me, it's just a reminder that
Yeah.
even though we live in a world that feels increasingly divided,
Yeah.
there are people and organizations out there who are like dedicated to building bridges
Yes.
and fostering understanding,
Totally. Yeah.
What about you? What are you taking away from all this?
I'm really struck by how practical these ideas are.
Okay.
We've been talking about Weltsicht and Grundannam and like these big philosophical concepts.
Right.
But communication Slutzen has found a way to make them
Yeah.
tangible, applicable to
Yeah.
like everyday situations.
Yeah.
You don't need a PhD
Right.
to use these tools and these principles.
It's like they've given us a toolkit for
Yeah.
better communication,
Exactly.
which makes me wonder, how might your life be different
Yeah.
if you started approaching conversations with like a facilitator mindset?
What if instead of trying to like win an argument,
Right.
we focus on understanding each other's perspective?
Yeah.
What if we use those cards
Yeah.
to like uncover those hidden assumptions?
Yeah.
Get to the heart of the conflict.
I love that. It's like shifting from competition
Right.
to collaboration, from me to we. And that makes me think about all the different areas of life where this could be helpful.
Right.
At work, at home.
Yeah, in our communities.
In our communities, yeah, for sure.
Think about those tough conversations
Yeah.
that you've been putting off.
Yeah.
Maybe it's with a coworker,
Yeah.
family member, a friend.
A friend.
Yeah.
Someone you just haven't seen eye to eye with lately.
What if you went into that conversation
Yeah.
with the intention of facilitating understanding
Right.
instead of like proving your point?
It's like turning those conversations into mini open space workshops.
Exactly.
Creating that space where everyone feels safe
Right.
to share their ideas.
And knowing they'll be heard
yeah.
and respected.
Exactly. And it's not about like forcing agreement or anything like that, or
Yeah.
like suppressing differences.
It's about recognizing those differences
Right.
and finding ways to navigate them.
Totally. So what's the first step? How can our listeners start incorporating
Yeah.
these principles into their life?
Well, I think it could be as simple as starting to pay attention to your own Grundannamen,
Right.
those underlying beliefs.
Yeah.
Just notice how they influence
Yeah.
your interactions with other people.
Okay.
And next time you're in a challenging conversation,
Yeah.
try asking questions
Okay.
instead of making statements.
Oh, that's a good one.
Listen with the intention of understanding,
Yeah.
not just responding.
I like that. That's great advice. It's about becoming more aware of our own biases
Yeah.
and being open to different perspectives.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe those facilitative thinking cards could be helpful
Yeah.
for starting those conversations.
Or maybe gather some friends and colleagues
Yeah.
and like experiment with a circle way discussion.
Exactly.
The point is there's so many ways to bring these principles to life.
And it's exciting to think about the ripple effects.
Right. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. Me
Yeah.
too. I'm feeling inspired
Yeah.
to embrace my inner communication pilot.
Yeah. It's a reminder that we all have the power
Yeah.
to create more meaningful and productive conversations.
Totally.
It just takes a little awareness,
Yeah.
a little intention,
Uh-huh.
and maybe a few German words thrown in there.
Always helps, right?
For good measure.
Well, that's a wrap for another deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of facilitation with us.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing.
Yes.
And remember, even in the midst of complexity,
Yeah.
there's always a way to navigate towards understanding.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.